Hello, everybody, and welcome to our final live presentation for our 16th annual Chihuahuan Desert Fiesta and our first ever virtual Fiesta. My name's Sarah. I am actually an educator here at the El Paso Zoo, and so this final presentation is going to be by me. So what I'm going to be talking about are some creepy crawlies of the Chihuahuan Desert. Here at the zoo, we love to show off our animal collection, and so I'm going to focus on a handful of animals that we have here at the zoo that we like to show off during different programs. We've used them for school presentations, for animal encounters on grounds here at the zoo, and even special events. And so it's really fun to focus on Chihuahuan Desert animals, of course, during our Fiesta. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. If anybody does have any questions, feel free to put those into the chat, and we'll kind of keep an eye on that. And then we'll also have time at the end for questions as well. But again, my name's Sarah. I'm an education specialist here at the zoo. I'm also a board member for the Chihuahuan Desert Education Coalition. And so the Chihuahuan Desert, I'm not an El Paso native, but the Chihuahuan Desert has become a very near and dear place in my heart. I've fallen in love with its beauty, with all the plants and the animals here, and especially the creepy crawlies. And so just a brief overview or kind of some background on the Chihuahuan Desert. It is an area that covers approximately 200,000 square miles, and it's actually considered the largest desert in North America. Right next to us, we do have the Sonoran Desert over in Arizona, and that's actually, I did live in Tucson for a time, and I became familiar with the saguaros out there in the Sonoran Desert. But when I moved to El Paso, the Chihuahuan Desert was actually completely new to me. I never really heard of it very much before. I didn't know much about it. And so it's just amazing to learn about, of course, the area that it covers. It goes into 2 countries, 9 states, as you can see on the map here. And again, it is the largest desert in North America. With that, it's also considered one of the most biologically diverse deserts in the world. Now, that's based on a couple things. That is based on species endemism as well as species richness. So, we have a lot of different types of life here, many different plant species. We have many different animal species, and there's even different types of habitat zones. So we have, our different types of forests. We have our desert area. We have our scrubland. We even have riparian areas. And so having all these different types of habitats really allow many different types of animals and plants to thrive in this desert. Now, again, thinking of a desert, growing up, I'm from the Midwest, I'm from Ohio. And so thinking of a desert, I think of those pictures of where it's just like big expanses of sand dunes and there's no water. You just feel that sun beating down on you. Living here in El Paso and kind of exploring the neighboring cities and areas in the Chihuahuan Desert, I've learned that, of course, our desert is nothing like that. It's, again, full of life, full of beauty. And so in our desert, it actually hosts 176 different species of mammals, with 11 of them endemic to the Chihuahuan Desert, so only found in the Chihuahuan Desert. There are over 500 species of birds, which we actually got to point out a few of them during some of our previous programs. 120 fish species, with many of them endemic. We have 46 amphibian species, 156 reptile species, and then, of course, thousands of invertebrates. Now, with, again, my program being called Creepy Crawlies of the Chihuahuan Desert, and having our education collection of animals here at the zoo, we are going to focus in on some of those smaller ones that you would see around here. Now for the fun part, of course. So we are going to jump over to our other camera and we are going to get an up-close look at some of our Chihuahuan Desert natives. So let me go ahead and stop sharing. I'm going to spotlight our camera.
Let me turn it around. Nope, wrong one. There we go.
There we go. Awesome.
All right.
So first,
hold on. I think
you're gonna take it out.
Yeah, I think that'll be easy.
All right, guys, we have a gimbal that helps to stabilize everything, but sometimes these smaller containers, it's easier just to hold our other camera. So our first animal that we're gonna see, and I picked out some that, I'm kind of starting with like a venomous animal. to non-venomous animals. This very first one is our desert centipede. And what I love about, about centipedes is that, of course, everybody is so kind of creeped out by them when you maybe have one in your house or you see one outside. They do have that very creepy quality about them, but they are, amazingly important in our desert as they are carnivores. They do live in the southwestern US and even down into northern Mexico, and they really thrive in those desert and scrubland habitats. With our little guy here, he's, a little bit smaller, but they can actually get up to 8 inches long, and they can live to be around 6 or so years. Now, of course, with animals, this can always vary depending on the conditions that they're living in, the availability of food and water. But with these ones, because they do not like to live or be active when it's very hot out and when it's very dry out, they are a nocturnal animal where they come out at night and they're very quick. They move around to try to catch insect prey. Now, one of my favorite things about our centipede is that they are kind of like tricksters of the creepy crawly world, in that if you take a look at their head and if you take a look at that back end, they're kind of like their tail, it looks very similar. So ours, we got to see him kind of moving forward, so we knew which side was his head. But if he was trying to catch his prey, what he would do is, he has that back end that looks very similar. He has those back appendages that look like his antenna. And so maybe an insect or a bug, some other sort of animal might run and try to run towards his front end, where his head is, because they think that back end is his head. And so that's actually a really great way that they're able to hunt for their food. So they might even try to kind of secretly hide that front end of them, their head, so that an animal, would think again that their tail end is the head and run the other direction. Now, again, with centipedes, they're very fast. They have many, many legs to help them move quickly through, the different types of, what am I trying to say here? Like the different areas that they're moving across. So across rocky areas, sandy areas, but on their body, their name means 100 legs or 100 feet, but that's not necessarily true. With centipedes, they will actually have, they'll have their 2 legs per segment, so 1 pair of legs per segment, and they'll have many segments that usually it is less than 100 legs or feet. But again, they have those great antennae to help them feel around. They have that kind of tricky tail end to trick their prey. And so they are amazing predators in our desert. They do have a venom that helps them, when they bite into their prey, that helps to subdue their prey. It's a very powerful and strong bite that they have as well. So it's definitely not an animal that we want to mess around with. If we do see one, know that they're eating those bugs in your house. They are playing an important role, but don't try to, poke around at them or get too close. Let them do their job, and then and they'll help you out as well. So then moving on to our next one, we're gonna go over to our next container here, our next animal. This next one is, again, I pulled out some of my favorites here. The next one is somewhat similar to what we just saw, or at least a lot of people think that they are maybe kind of cousins, I guess. They are both myriapods, the centipede and the millipede. Here we do have our desert millipede, which has a very different body shape and a very different role in our desert. They have a very rounded body, and they have many more legs than centipedes do. They are both part of that same myriapod family, which means many feet or many legs. But with our millipedes, they will actually have 2 pairs of leg per segment on their body. And you can see all those little lines on there are all those little separate segments on its body. But that 2 pairs of legs per segment means that they have 4 legs per segment total. And they can actually, when they do hatch, when they're born, they will actually have around 4 segments, and then they continue to grow and get longer throughout their life as they're growing. Now, again, like I said, they do have a very different role out in the desert than our centipedes do. Again, centipedes they're carnivores, they're predators, they're hunters. They have that strong bite that, it would be very painful if we were to be bitten by them, but it wouldn't hurt us, but it helps them to catch their prey. With our millipedes, they're kind of our nature's recyclers. And so they play that important role of breaking down plants and nutrients, or plants and dead matter, and returning those nutrients to the soil so that new plants and animals can benefit from that. So of course, when new plants grow, those new plants help to provide shelter and maybe food to other animals. And so these little guys, even though they're so small, they play a very important role as they are eating all that stuff, you know, the plant matter, the dead matter on the ground. And then again, the way that they return it is it goes through their system and they put those nutrients right back into the soil. Now we can see as he's crawling around, I know this is probably a very ticklish feeling, but they have all those little legs. And again, this is a way that you can tell them apart, millipedes apart from centipedes, is where those legs are. With our centipede, the legs stick out to the sides. There aren't as many of them. With our millipedes, those legs are underneath them, and they have lots and lots of those little tiny legs on all of those little segments. Now, I am gonna let Heather, I guess, return this little guy back maybe to his holding where he has lots of soil to dig down into and bury himself in. And then we're gonna move on to our next one here, which I'm gonna take over the camera, so let me step over. Okay, so our next one here, reaching in, is one that is actually, sometimes it's endangered in Texas, and it can be endangered in its range. This is a vinegaroon. Now I said we're kind of going in the order of, we had a venomous animal to start with, and then going over to non-venomous. Well, I kind of forgot to mention with our millipedes, they will actually secrete like a cyanide type substance that can be hurtful or harmful to animals that try to eat them, but they're not considered a venomous animal at all. They're not harmful to people. Well, this one here, this is an arachnid, so they are, you know, cousins to spiders and scorpions, but the vinegaroon is actually a non-venomous member of that group. They do have little pinchers though, just like our scorpions do, that would help them to catch their prey. And so these animals actually play a very important role in helping to eat insects and pests around us, using those pinchers. But if for some reason they were to get startled or maybe something was trying to eat them, they do actually get their name because they can spray out an acetic acid, which is, it's a very stinky substance. It smells like vinegar, which that's, again, what gives them their name, vinegaroon. But these ones are harmless to people. They are very beneficial to have maybe in your gardens and in your yards at home because, again, they're eating the pests. They're keeping other insects away from your beautiful flowers and your plants. And again, they're just a really cool animal to have around. Again, they're not super common anymore. I've been lucky enough to see a few of them in my yard on occasion. And so, you know, I just let them be on their way, doing what they do, eating those bugs and keeping my garden beautiful and healthy. But again, that is the vinegaroon. So now we're moving on to one that I also found in my house. This is actually a desert stink beetle. Let me see if I can get a good angle. Let me move this actually. So this is a desert stink beetle. He's actually wanting to hold on here. And they are also called headstand or clown beetles. And that's because they will actually do like a little headstand if maybe they're alarmed, if maybe there's something trying to eat them. What they can do is they can actually secrete a very stinky substance, a very oily secretion, which gives them, again, that name, the stink beetle. And there's actually many different kinds. This one here has a very smooth body. It's very dark black, but they can actually range anywhere from black to a brown color, and they can have ridges or bumps on their body. You know, they can look very different depending on where you find them. They're actually found all the way from Canada down to Mexico, across the US, so they are just about everywhere. These ones, they are herbivores, so they're gonna be eating the plants. Here you can see a little dish with some fruit and vegetables cut up for our little guy here. And this one we believe is a male. We do have another, we have a couple more desert stink beetles here at the zoo, and they're quite a bit smaller than this one. And so we believe because of their size and also a little bit of a different shape of their body that they are females and this is a male. Now, like I said, we have lots of creepy crawlies that we like to show off here at the zoo. We have a program called Venomous Animals. We have, our animals and plants of the Chihuahuan Desert. And so the next one is actually one of my favorites. Which do we want to use? This camera? Okay. So this next one is Gumbo. And Gumbo is a desert king snake. Now these ones are really amazing animals. They, king snakes are actually capable of eating other animals or other snakes in the hunt. They will hunt small mammals, other small reptiles, maybe possibly birds. But again, that one thing that makes them really cool is that they can actually eat other snakes, and they have an immunity to rattlesnake venom. Now the desert king snake is also called the speckled king snake. So you can see on its body, it's very dark, but it has almost like these yellow spots all over it. And they can actually get up to around 8 feet. Gumbo here is not quite that big. He's the bigger of the two that we have here at the zoo. But just because, you might read something that an animal gets up to a certain size doesn't mean that every individual will. Gumbo is, he's probably what, 4 feet maybe? Yeah, maybe about 4 feet or so. And then we also have Petey here at the zoo, another desert king snake who's even smaller than Gumbo. But Gumbo is 14 years old. Out in, under human care, they can live into their 20s. Out in the wild, that's going to vary based on their conditions that, they're living in. If they can find food, if they can find water and shelter, if they encounter another predator. Now, one thing we're seeing Gumbo do a lot right now is he is sticking out his tongue. And that is actually a way that snakes will smell what is around them. They'll smell their environment. They do have an organ called a Jacobson organ. So what they do is they stick that tongue out. They pick up different scent particles or particles from the air. They pull that tongue back into their mouth and touch it to that Jacobson organ, and it's exactly how they smell. So their nose doesn't work exactly how ours does. Their nose is more for breathing. Also, you might notice that he doesn't have ears. Now with snakes, they do have special bones on the inside of their head that help to pick up vibrations. So they listen and hear a little bit differently than we do as well. But Gumbo, he is one of my favorite animals here at the El Paso Zoo, one of our favorite education ambassadors, just because he has such a great personality and he's very fun to work with. He is, one of those animals where he does love to come out and see people, and he can also be very active. So he likes to challenge people as well. So definitely when we have newcomers to the zoo, maybe volunteers or new employees that do get to work with him, he definitely likes to challenge them by moving and being very active. But when he's comfortable with somebody, you can see he's a little bit more calm right now. He's just smelling what's around him and checking everything out. But again, this is Gumbo, and he is our desert king snake. My other screen here.
I unmuted you.
Perfect. So just getting back over to my other screen here, I'm gonna head back to my presentation. So again, that's one of the most fun parts of my job here at the zoo, is that we get to really show off the animals that we have here, especially focusing in on our Chihuahuan Desert. We do have a few other Chihuahuan Desert animals, but I always like to focus on the creepy crawly ones, because these are the ones that people are, maybe get nervous about seeing. They don't really know what they do out in the wild, or what their role is in our desert. And so again, learning about the vinegaroon, that is very helpful if you have one in your yard. They eat they eat insects, and they eat maybe even spiders or other bugs around them. Our centipedes that also have that same role. Our millipedes that are recyclers, where they're returning those nutrients to the soil. And of course, snakes, they help to keep the rodents away. They control their populations. Every single animal has a very important role and an important purpose here in our desert. And so it's really cool and an interesting way to learn about them and see what species we do have here. So let me see. So with that does round out our final animal presentation, our final live program. I am happy to answer any questions that we have. I'm going to go ahead and go to the chat and see if we had any there. Oh yeah. Let me see. It's not letting me open my chat. Do you mind reading them?
I can't see them anymore, but I saw them there on the site.
Okay.
He was asking since you were.
There we go. Okay, let me go ahead and switch my camera
I can
to
tell you what it was
me.
in regards to. That is for
So-
the centipede. How powerful is their venom?
Okay, so how powerful is the centipede's venom? So, so again, I mentioned that they do have a strong jaw with a powerful bite. If they were to bite humans, it wouldn't, you know, most of the venomous animals that we have here, unless you have some sort of allergic reaction, it's not going to kill us. I always like to talk about how I'm allergic to bees, so my reaction would probably be very different from maybe Heather's reaction to a bite from one of our venomous animals. But again, that centipede has a strong enough venom where it really does help, you know, it helps it when it's hunting to catch its prey, incapacitate its prey. But again, it wouldn't be, you know, as harmful to us. It would probably be very painful. You would want to maybe have it checked out, but it wouldn't kill us. Let me see.
Are they venomous? Oh, he was asking, are they venomous too on the millipedes?
Oh, so with the millipedes, are they venomous also? So they are not, they're not venomous. They're more of a poisonous animal. So here at the zoo, we always get the questions, you know, people are always saying things like, oh, look at the snake, is it poisonous? And so we like to really clarify the difference between poison and venom, where poison is something that you ingest, you eat it, whereas venom is something that's injected if you're stung by something or bitten by something. With our millipedes, they have a cyanide that they can, and even some other substances that they can secrete that can be harmful to animals when they are eaten. So if an animal eats a millipede, it could start to feel sick. It could, you know, it could taste really bad. And so they aren't venomous, but they're more poisonous. Let me see. Do we name the bugs? I like that question. So with some of our bugs, we have named them. Not all of them, just a few of them do have names. Unfortunately, bugs don't always live the longest. And so sometimes we have them for a short time, and so we don't always have the opportunity to name them. But a few of them do have names. We have a skeleton tarantula named Jack.
We have
Sally.
pink-toed Sally.
We have a pink-toed tarantula named Sally, so they were named after the Nightmare Before Christmas characters. And I think if any others have names. I remember when I first started here, we had a tarantula that was named, and I wrote it down on a sign or a paper, and some people were really confused because they don't always realize that we do name the bugs. But yeah, so sometimes we will name them. Oh yeah, Wolfie or wolf spider. So yeah, sometimes we do give them names. And let me see, do they bite hard if they bite you? Was this maybe in regards to gumbo?
Gumbo.
So with snakes, they do all have teeth. They don't all have fangs. Just our venomous snakes will have fangs, like our rattlesnakes. Even hognose snakes will have rear fangs. But when they do bite, depending on if they're maybe hunting, then of course they would bite hard to try to catch that prey and hold on to it. And those teeth would help them to hold on to their prey. Again, they don't have, you know, those arms to help them to grab onto whatever it is they're hunting. Fortunately, I've never been bitten by Gumbo. He's an animal that we work with all the time so that he's comfortable being around people and he's comfortable being held and handled. And so if he were to bite, that would maybe be a sign that he wasn't feeling good or maybe something was hurting. So I'm trying to think how hard he would bite. You know, again, they all have teeth, so, you know, when they do bite, you would definitely feel it. But again, it's going to be depending on why they're biting. You know, some animals will even just give warnings where it's not a full bite. It might just be, you know, even just hitting you with their mouth, with their head to give you a warning. And so they would do that to predators out in the wild to scare something away. Again, with us, if people get too close to these animals, they might bite. They might just give you that warning. If they do give you that bite, you definitely want to make sure you're being careful and you have it checked out, you clean it, everything like that, to make sure that you stay healthy as well. But let me see what else. Does the zoo feature any other arachnids in its collection? So we do actually have, in our education collection, we do have quite a few invertebrates. So we have several scorpions, we have tarantulas, we have our vinegaroons, we have a few vinegaroons. So we do have quite a few arachnids in our collection. From time to time, we've had maybe black widows or brown recluses, but these are animals from all over the world, so not just our Chihuahuan desert. So we do definitely have other arachnids. So is it true that centipedes travel in pairs?
So I've been looking that one up, and I really can't find anything that says yay or nay on that one.
Yeah,
so that might be something that requires further research, or at least scientific research. I haven't found. I've found like a question, like somebody just asking that question and then random people answering it. Oh, I saw them in pairs or no,
I mean, yeah, it could just be that they were by chance close
Mhm.
together.
but I would
something
have
like that.
I've been trying.
Yeah, I know. I haven't heard of that, so I would have to do more research on that as well. And some animals in the wild, they will also help to raise their young or protect their young until they reach a certain age. Like with our vinegaroons, they will actually carry their babies on their back until the babies have their first molt. Some other, different types of scorpions will carry their babies on their back until they're a little bit larger. So you may see them, closer together. Maybe it was, an instance where two centipedes were coming together to breed and you saw two of them together. So there are lots of different scenarios where they could be hanging out together. But yeah, I would have to definitely do more research to know if they do travel in pairs. I've never heard of that before. Let's see. Are there any other questions that we can answer about our creepy crawlies or our animals here at the zoo? No? Okay. Well, if there aren't any other questions, I do want to say a huge thank you for joining us here, joining me here for my Creepy Crawlies presentation. And like I said, this was the last live presentation for today for the Fiesta, but we do have more YouTube videos being posted until 3 o'clock. So make sure you check out our YouTube. You can get all the links to those YouTube videos from our website or even on our Facebook. That will direct you to where to find those links. And we hope you have enjoyed learning all about our Chihuahuan Desert, really celebrating this beautiful place in the world. And we hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks, everyone. Bye.